The water cycle is an extremely confusing and upsetting process. As explained in this diagram, there are 4 stages of the water cycle. The first stage is called condensation. Condensation is basically when water forms in the clouds, and then water starts to come out of the clouds in the form of rain. This process is also something called precipitation. When water starts to fall from the clouds, it falls into things like cities, and football fields, and my basement, and even places like lakes and rivers. What then begins to happen is a process called runoff, when the water from the lakes and rivers goes from the lakes and the rivers, and they go into the ocean. What then begins to happen is a process called evaporation, and that's when the waters from the places like the oceans and the lakes, they begin to do something called evaporate, which is essentially a big sciencey word for when water turns into gas, and then it goes from the gas back into the clouds, and then the whole process starts all over again. But let's put this another way, for those of you who don't understand. Water cycle is a lot like Adam Sandler's career. He kinda goes, hey, people like the first grown-ups, right? I'm sure that they would totally like another grown-ups. And so he goes there and then he puts the movie out into the theaters and people go watch it. And amazingly, the movie makes approximately 3 times its budget. And so then the producers go, well, why don't you go make another one, Adam Sandler? That sounds like a good idea. I thought that was a pretty spot-on analogy of what the water cycle was, but I'll go over it again for those of you who still don't get it. So the water cycle begins with condensation, when water forms in the clouds. Then after it does that, it falls to the ground in the form of precipitation. Then the water runs off into the lakes and the oceans through rivers. After it does that, it begins to evaporate. And the whole cycle starts again when water forms in the clouds via evaporation. I hope you all get it now. Thank you for watching this movie that I've made for educational purposes. The best part about this movie, I think, is that it's really only for that. There's no ulterior motive at all. Really, it's just a good video about the water cycle. Okay, bye.